I watched from the kitchen window as my brother's car disappeared down the gravel road. Dust still hovered in the air, golden from the last light of the setting sun. My daughter's hand tightened around mine, her grip small but shaking. She whispered, urgent and sharp, "Please, let's go, now." I turned to look at her. Not the usual kind of nervous you'd expect from a kid scared of the dark. No, this was deeper. Something else entirely. Her eyes, wide, wet, weren't just scared. They were haunted. I'd never forget that face, like she'd seen something no child should ever have to carry. The backyard was quiet now. Just the rustle of leaves, the last lazy chirp of a bird. Everything looked normal, suburban, safe. But I felt it. Something had shifted, and it had nothing to do with the sun setting behind the trees. A few hours earlier, we were all smiling. The barbecue smelled like home, charcoal smoke and sweet corn. My brother Lucien was flipping burgers, cracking jokes. The kind of laughter that comes a little too easily. My daughter hadn't left my side all evening. She stayed close, clinging to me in a way that made my skin crawl the more I thought about it. I'd chalked it up to shyness at first, but now, looking back, there were moments, glances between Lucien and his wife, a sudden quiet when I walked up, the way my mother-in-law's smile froze a second too long. Morgan, my husband, kept refilling Lucien's drink like it was a game. His loyalty always leaned toward charm. And Lucien? He had charm in spades. I noticed his jokes had little barbs tonight, directed at me, just enough to sting, not enough to call out without looking petty. Lucien and I hadn't been close since we were teenagers. After our dad died, it was like something snapped. We both carried pieces of that grief, but never in the same way. These family gatherings were more performance than tradition. Somewhere between the ribs and the roasted corn, Lucien called my daughter over. Just a little chat, he smiled. She hesitated but went. 5 minutes later, she came back holding a bracelet, something shiny and out of place. Her face was pale, like she'd swallowed a scream. "What's wrong, baby?" I asked, brushing her hair back. She shook her head, lips pressed tight. I should have pushed, should have asked again, but I didn't. And now she was begging to leave, voice cracking, eyes pleading. Something shifted inside me. I grabbed our bags, slung them over my shoulder, walked back into the yard. "We're going," I said flat. Morgan looked up, confused. "What? We just got here." "We're leaving," I said again. "Now." He frowned. "You're overreacting. What's gotten into you?" My mother-in-law looked startled. Lucien raised his eyebrows. "Everything okay?" he asked, too sweet. My daughter started crying. "I don't want to stay here," she sobbed. She ran behind me, clutching my waist. I scanned their faces. No one moved. No one stepped forward. That's when I realized. They weren't going to protect her. No one would. Except me. My voice was steady, louder than I expected. "She doesn't feel safe. And I trust her more than I trust any of you." Silence. I took her hand, turned, and walked. The car ride was quiet. Almost too quiet. Morgan sat stiff, arms crossed. "I don't get it," he muttered. I didn't answer. The trees blurred by, the sun now gone, sky bleeding into night. Then, in the softest voice, my daughter said, "He told me. It wasn't a secret if I told." My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. I didn't look at her. I couldn't. But I reached for her hand, squeezed it, hard. A chill ran through me, not from her words, but from the echo of them. I'd heard that same line once, when I was a child. The realization hit like a slow crack splitting through glass. This wasn't just about tonight. It never was. The morning came slower than usual. Light pushed through the curtains, but it didn't feel like a new day. My eyes opened to the sound of birds chirping, peaceful on any other morning. But today it felt wrong, like the world hadn't caught up to what had happened. I rolled over and reached for the other side of the bed. Empty. Morgan was already downstairs. No footsteps, no clatter in the kitchen. Just absence. Evelyn stood in the hallway, hair tangled from sleep, eyes dull. "Can I stay home today?" she asked, voice barely audible. I nodded, too quickly. "Of course." Downstairs, I made breakfast, mechanical movements, eggs, toast, orange juice. No one spoke. The clinking of the fork on her plate echoed like a scream. The house, familiar in layout, now felt like it belonged to strangers. My phone buzzed. A missed call. Lucian. No message. Just silence. Morgan cleared his throat. "Are we going to talk about it?" I didn't look at him. "About what?" "Last night," he said. "Why you pulled us out of there like the place was on fire?" I dried my hands on a dish towel. Evelyn was scared. "She's a kid," he said, flat. "You sure this isn't about something else? Something from before?" That cut deeper than he knew. Or maybe he did. I remembered being 15, sitting in my bedroom, knees to chest, trying to explain to my mother why I didn't want to go back to Uncle Jimmy's. Her face said it all. Disbelief, disappointment, denial. No one asked what he said. No one wanted to know. I stared at Morgan. "I don't know what happened yet, but it wasn't nothing." He sighed, rubbed his face. "Maybe you're seeing ghosts." I walked away. I called Evelyn's school and told them she wouldn't be in. Then I sat on her bed, smoothing the blanket as she colored in silence. She didn't look up, but when she finished, she handed me the drawing. A room, no windows, a staircase, a long cord dangling from the ceiling, and Lucian's workbench. I recognized it instantly. His basement. I didn't ask how she remembered it in such detail. I didn't want to know what else was in that memory. Around noon, the doorbell rang. My mother-in-law stood there, smile too wide, Tupperware in hand. "I brought cookies," she said. "Thought you might need a little sweetness after that scene." I let her in. Regretted it immediately. She sat, sipping tea, eyes scanning every corner of the room. "Lucienne told us you left in quite a hurry. Everything all right?" I didn't answer. She kept going. "I mean, boys will be boys, right? And Evelyn's always been sensitive." There it was, dismissal dressed as concern. I stared at her hands as she reached for a second cookie. "If you came to judge, you should have just called." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "I think you should go." Her lips thinned, but she stood. "I hope you don't let your past ruin this family." I didn't say a word. But as the door shut behind her, I felt Evelyn watching from the stairs. "She doesn't believe me either, does she?" she asked. "No, sweetheart," I said quietly. "She doesn't." Later, while folding laundry, I felt something small fall from a sweater pocket. The bracelet. I hadn't seen it since last night. I held it under the light, silver, a small charm, and engraved on the inside, L.R. It wasn't Evelyn's. It wasn't even new. I opened my laptop, typed in "Missing Girl Fredericksburg," scrolled, stopped. Liana Ray. Gone 3 years ago. Last seen walking home near Lucian's old neighborhood. Her photo stared back, 8 years old. Brown hair, blue eyes, wearing a bracelet in the picture, the same one. I printed the article, folded it, slid it into the back of my desk drawer. I wasn't ready to tell Morgan. Not yet. That night, as the world dimmed, I locked every door and window twice. Morgan was watching a game, unaware. I stood in the hallway, listening. Then I heard it. A low hum outside, a car engine, idling. I peeked through the blinds. Nothing. When I turned back, Evelyn was standing by our bed, holding her pillow. I pulled the covers back without a word. She curled in, her back to me. I wrapped an arm around her. No more questions tonight. Some truths grow too big, too loud to speak all at once. But I was listening now, even to the silence. 2 days had passed since the night we left Lucien's house, and I hadn't let go of what I saw in my daughter's eyes. It lingered, gnawed at me, and I knew I couldn't wait any longer. So I booked the appointment myself. No more waiting on Morgan's, maybe next week. The therapist's office was tucked behind a coffee shop downtown. The sign out front was faded, hand-painted. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lavender. and soft instrumental music played from a hidden speaker. It was supposed to calm you. It didn't. I sat behind the glass window, separated from Evelyn as she sat cross-legged on a floor mat, knees close to her chest. The therapist, a woman maybe in her 50s, spoke softly, too soft to hear through the pain. She slid a tray of toys and drawing tools across the carpet. Evelyn hesitated, then reached for a charcoal pencil. Her little hand moved quickly, sketching with purpose, almost like she wasn't drawing but remembering. Every line sharper than the last. The session felt like hours, though it couldn't have been more than 40 minutes. When the door finally opened, the therapist stepped out with a look I'd seen before. Gentle, careful, too cautious. She's quiet, but her silence says enough. That night, Morgan grilled chicken like it was just another Tuesday. The smell drifted into the living room, and he called us to the table like nothing had happened. "We need normal," he said, laying down plates. Evelyn barely picked at her food. I sat beside her, brushing my fingers against hers under the table. I brought up the bracelet again, calmly. It wasn't hers. It was engraved, Morgan. He looked up from his plate. "Kids pass stuff around all the time. It doesn't mean anything." I kept my voice low. Liana Ray's name came up when I searched the initials. She disappeared near Lucien's old house. He laughed. A short, flat sound. "You're connecting dots that don't even exist." I stared at him. What if she's trying to tell us something? What if we just haven't listened close enough? His face tightened. What if you're projecting? You still haven't dealt with your own crap from back then, and now you're dragging our daughter through it. I exhaled slowly. You're scared of what this could mean. He set his fork down. No, I'm scared of what you're becoming. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet, it was absolute. And in that silence, I knew he wouldn't stand with me anymore. Later that night, just after the dishes were done and the lights were dim, I heard a soft sound at my door. When I opened it, no one was there, but on the floor was a folded piece of paper. Evelyn's drawing from therapy. I took it back to my bed and unfolded it under the lamp. A steep staircase, descending into darkness, a thick door at the bottom, locked, and just outside the door, a small shoe. I pressed my fingers to the image. My voice, hoarse, barely escaped. "She's showing me. She can't say it, but she's showing me." I scanned the drawing again and again, memorizing every shade. I snapped a photo and emailed it to myself, just in case. Then I turned off the light and sat in the dark, my face buried in a pillow, crying without sound. The way I used to cry at 12 years old, when I still thought someone might come down the hall and ask me if I was okay. The next morning, the sky was gray. Low clouds, heavy with rain that never came. My phone rang once. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. A woman's voice, low, tense, filtered through something artificial. "I saw your daughter's drawing," she said. "She's not the first." My breath caught. "Who is this?" But the line went dead. I tried to redial. No answer. I checked the number. No log. No trace. Maybe it was a prank. Or maybe my own paranoia finally breaking through the seams. But her voice? There was fear in it. Not put on. Real fear. And something else too. Recognition. I stood in the kitchen, holding the phone with both hands. Someone else knows. Someone else is scared. 1 week later, the neighborhood held its usual summer BBQ at the park. The kind with overcooked hot dogs, lukewarm lemonade, and too many people pretending they liked each other more than they did. Morgan insisted we go, said it'd be good for Evelyn, said we all needed a reset. I agreed, not because I believed him, but because I wanted to watch how people looked at us. I needed to know if they knew. The park was loud, alive with kids chasing each other barefoot, grill smoke swirling through the trees. Laughter came easy to everyone except the three of us. Evelyn clung to my side like a shadow. Every time a car door slammed, she flinched. She wouldn't play, wouldn't eat, wouldn't smile. Just kept glancing toward Sawyer's car, parked too close to the edge of the grass. She never took her eyes off it. Refused to go near. Morgan. He was across the park with Sawyer, 2 beers in, tossing a football and laughing like nothing had splintered. Like his daughter hadn't said what she said. Like I hadn't heard what I'd heard. I tried making conversation with a mom I barely knew, someone I'd seen at the school pickup line. Slipped in something about anxiety in kids, testing waters. She smiled politely, nodded once, then changed the subject. Fast, it hit me right there, in the middle of the crowd and the noise. People knew something, maybe not details, but something had traveled, something in whispers, and they were choosing to smile through it. We stayed just long enough for Morgan to say we tried, then left. Back home that night, after Evelyn had gone to bed and Morgan fell asleep on the couch, I went into the basement. Not ours. Sawyer's. He'd moved out 2 years ago, left a bunch of junk in the downstairs of my parents' old place. No one had really cleaned it out. The door stuck a little. The smell hit me first. Mildew, old paper, something metallic. I flicked on my flashlight. The walls looked just as I remembered. Cheap paneling, water stains, one flickering light bulb that hadn't worked in years. Then I saw it. A gap in the back shelf, tucked behind dusty board games and a box labeled Halloween, a small black GoPro. My fingers tingled as I picked it up. Dead battery. No note, just there. I didn't know what was on it, but something in me did. I took it home without telling Morgan, hid it in the back of my closet under a stack of winter clothes. My hands didn't stop shaking until I laid in bed, and even then, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I found a letter in our mailbox. No name, no return address, plain envelope, plain paper. You don't want to know what you're digging into. Let it go. No signature. Just that one sentence. I read it twice, then 3 more times. Morgan saw me holding it. Someone's messing with you, he said, brushing past me to pour his coffee. People love stirring up trouble when they know you'll bite. He didn't even ask what it said. I checked the postmark. It was from our own zip code. Someone nearby. Someone who saw me at that BBQ. Someone who'd rather I stop asking questions. But the tone wasn't a threat. It felt sad, like someone trying to warn me of a fire while standing behind the matchbox. I grabbed a pen and paper, started making a list of everyone who'd been at that park. Then I made another list. People who might have known Liana Ray. People who lived near Lucian's old place. Names, faces, connections. I wasn't going to stop. Not now. That night, while brushing Evelyn's hair before bed, she looked at me and asked, soft as breath, "Can we lock my door tonight?" I paused. Of course. Her eyes didn't leave mine. I don't want him coming in again. She didn't say who. She didn't have to. I nodded, kissed her forehead, and turned the key in the lock from the inside. Slipped it into my pajama pocket and sat down in the hallway outside her room with the GoPro in my lap. I stayed there the whole night. I didn't trust the house anymore. I didn't trust the silence. And I wasn't sure anymore if the danger was outside trying to get in, or inside trying not to be seen. Morgan walked in just after sunset. Rain hammered against the windows, wet enough to blur the streetlights. I was in the living room, GoPro in hand, staring at its black rectangle, wondering how something so small could change everything. He stopped in the doorway, saw me holding it, saw the weight in my eyes. "What are you doing with Sawyer's stuff?" he asked. I didn't flinch. I held it up. "I found this. I want to know why it was hidden." He took a breath. "You're making this a thing again." I stood. "What do you know about what happened in that basement?" He laughed, sharp. "Crazy talk. Just because your daughter believes something doesn't mean it's real." I pressed fingers to my lips. I wanted calm. I needed something solid. "I'm not making up memories. I'm following facts." He shook his head. "You've always needed someone to blame." That phrase cut clean. Pain wasn't my response. Clarity was. Something shifted in me. No more corners, no more discounting my gut. In the kitchen, my mother's ceramic plate, the one she inherited from her mother, slipped from my hand. It hit the floor, cracked, fractured. I froze. Evelyn came running, eyes wide. She didn't speak. She waited at my side, quiet. The cracks in that plate were old. I'd held it together, polished it, displayed it. But it was broken long ago, just like trust. Morgan stood by the doorway, his mouth open. I didn't ask for help. He didn't move. I gathered up the pieces, putting fragments of porcelain into a paper bag. The weight of broken things in my arms felt like acknowledgement. Later, I called Tanya. It took nearly 20 rings. She picked up, voice cautious. I said, "You remember Liana Ray?" Her silence was loud. Then she said, "I heard rumors." I told her about my discovery, the GoPro, the drawing, the bracelet. She said she believed me, said people whispered, but no one cared enough to question until now. She offered help. "There's a retired cop I know. He's looking at cold cases. You show him what you found, he might listen." I hesitated, truly afraid, not of what the evidence said, but what proof would mean. Exposure, confrontation, chaos. But Tanya's voice held something firm. "If you're scared, it means you're finally close to something real." That night, in the dim hallway, I caught Morgan packing a bag. Not his work briefcase. A duffel. He looked at me, eyes hard. "Either you help me uncover the truth," I said, voice steadier than I felt, "or you move out until I'm done." He stared. For a moment, I thought he'd lash out. But instead, he turned and walked out the door. Rain slapped his shoulders. He didn't look back. I pulled the door closed. Locked it. Double locked it. The sound was final. It wasn't just about protecting Evelyn anymore. It was about protecting whatever dignity remained. About not letting silence win. And for the first time, standing alone in the pouring rain hitting our windows, I breathed deeply. 2 days after he walked out, Morgan came back like nothing had happened. He brought Evelyn a small pink plush rabbit, claimed he saw it in a store window and thought of her. She didn't say much, just took it, nodded, and went back to coloring. I stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, watching the way his eyes moved, too smooth, too prepared. His smile sat wrong on his face, like a suit a size too small. And when he said, "Let's just start fresh, okay?" I knew he was rehearsing, not reconciling. That evening, I caught him out in the garage, phone in hand, voice low. When I stepped in, the call ended immediately. He shoved the phone in his pocket and turned. "You don't need to dig around the past," he said flatly. "Sawyer was troubled, sure, but dangerous? That's a reach." I didn't argue. I didn't nod either. But I saw it now. He was trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. Contain the damage. Control the story. The next morning, I was wiping down the fridge when something slipped from behind one of Evelyn's animal magnets. A small folded note, yellowed, creased at the corners. "Careful who you trust. Some bloodlines protect each other." The handwriting wobbled, shaky, like someone wrote it in a rush or under stress, but something about the curve of the letters felt familiar. "Tanya?" I called her number right away. It didn't ring. Disconnected. Just like that. Morgan leaned against the counter, sipping coffee. "You okay? You're really starting to spiral, hun. Maybe talk to someone?" I didn't answer. Just slipped the note into my back pocket and stared at the sink. That night, after putting Evelyn to bed, I left a voicemail on my own phone, loud enough for anyone listening. "Hey, Doug. I'm finally uploading the GoPro footage to your drive tonight. Send me the Dropbox link again, okay?" I didn't know a Doug, but I wanted someone to think I did. 3 hours later, my laptop crashed. Blue screen, restart loop. Everything gone. I opened the drawer where I kept the USB drive. The plug was bent, completely twisted like someone shoved it wrong on purpose. That was all I needed. The next morning, I drove to a tiny electronics shop and bought a basic motion-activated camera. Installed it discreetly above the hallway mirror, angled toward the living room and the entrance to the garage. I wasn't scared anymore. Just aware. Focused. Someone was already watching me. I just hadn't decided to watch back until now. And Morgan? His mask was slipping. He'd been too confident for too long. Now, even Evelyn flinched when he entered the room. She didn't want to be alone with him. I could feel the walls breathing again, like they held secrets too. Later that night, I heard voices out back on the porch. I turned off the TV, crept to the hallway, and stood by the window that overlooked the yard. Morgan and Sawyer. Their voices were low, but the silence between their words spoke louder than anything they said. "She's losing it, man. Just keep her distracted," Sawyer said. Morgan replied, "We just need to report her. Get it on record. She's unstable. They'll believe us." "She's getting close," Sawyer said. "You know what that means." "I know," Morgan muttered. "We can't let her get control of the story." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My phone was under the couch cushion. I reached under carefully, fingers wrapping around the device. Hit record. Got every word. I didn't wait. The next morning, I texted the audio clip to the number Tanya had given me weeks ago, the retired cop she said I could trust. It was time to stop playing defense. Evelyn was sketching under the dim glow of her bedside lamp when I entered the room. Her pencil strokes were firm now, no hesitation. She'd drawn a map of Lucien's basement, the layout, the locked door, a little camera perched above the threshold. "They said I imagined it, Mommy," she said without looking up. Her voice was quiet, but steady. I felt her truth. I touched her hand, promising I believe her. Then, quietly, I retrieved the GoPro from where I'd stashed it, hidden under my pillow. This was the moment we had been building toward. Later, I searched Sawyer's desk. In a folder labeled Estate Documents, I found it. A contract. My name was missing. Someone else's name was listed as inheritor of Boone Estate. My hands trembled, reading signatures that weren't mine. Every page bore dates, not far in the past. This was the document that explained why I'd been erased, sidelined. I snapped photos, making sure timestamps were legible under the camera light. I remembered my father's words, noble blood, rightful name. I felt the strings of betrayal tighten. I messaged Avis, "Do you still have that video from the party when they spelled my name wrong?" She replied after a long delay, "Yes, it's yours now." Relief washed through me. I gathered everything, GoPro footage, Evelyn's map, the contract, Avis's video. These pieces weren't just memory, they were proof. I sent an urgent message to Tanya and the retired cop she mentioned. "I have everything. When can we meet?" For the first time in nights, I slept, hoping, not fearing. Morning came slow, like it always does after sleepless nights. I spread the evidence on the coffee table, the contract, the video, the drawing, the map. Morgan's face changed, confusion, anger, shock. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. I'd rehearsed this. I decided Lucien would be confronted. In front of family. I practiced my statement in my head, how I would speak, anticipate his denials. I realized I was no longer defending a battered story. I was reclaiming what was mine. Lucien hosted the brunch like it was some sort of wedding reception. White tablecloths, white linen outfits, even the napkins were folded like little doves. He claimed it was a fresh start for the family. Peace, legacy, unity. He said all the right things, but everything about it felt staged. The sun was too bright, the smiles too wide. I arrived with Evelyn. She wore a pale yellow dress, her hand gripping mine tighter than usual. I carried the documents in a leather folder tucked under my arm. Every step I took toward that long garden table felt like walking into court. Morgan played nice. He handed me a mimosa I didn't ask for, kept leaning in like we were some united front. But his eyes betrayed him. They kept darting to Lucien, watching, waiting. I didn't say much. I let the conversation swirl about real estate, country club rumors, Delia's new rose bushes, all of it meaningless. I waited, like a hunter waiting for the wind to shift. Lucien stood. His glass of wine caught the light like it was part of the act. He tapped the rim with a spoon. "We've had a lot of misunderstandings. Today is about healing. Legacy." His voice was syrupy, practiced. I cut him off. Calm. Direct. "Then let's tell the truth, Lucien." A hush. I reached into my folder and pulled out the contract. I handed it to Aunt Delia at the head of the table. "This document transferred Boone Estate illegally. I was never notified, never signed, but you'll see the names, the dates, and whose signature replaced mine." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I laid it out like I was narrating a timeline of crime. Lucian tried to speak, but Delia held up a hand. Let her speak. So I did. I showed her Evelyn's drawing of the basement, the one with the camera marked. I told them about the footage, about the cover-ups. I played the GoPro clip, just audio, Sawyer's voice, unmistakable, talking about what happened down there. How some truths are better buried. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was loaded. Gasps, a chair scraping. Someone dropped a fork. Delia turned to Lucien. Is this true? He sputtered. Denied. Called it edited. Tanya stood. She had her own papers, documents Lucien forged years ago. Things that had nothing to do with Evelyn but showed a pattern. Morgan tried to step in. This is going too far. I stopped him. I played a voice memo. Sawyer again. You cover things up in this family or you don't belong. That's the rule. That was the moment it stopped being about me, or even Evelyn. It became about the rot at the center of all of them. Evelyn peeked from behind a tree, her eyes wide but unflinching. She was watching her mother speak truth to a table full of people who spent decades burying it. Delia stood. I'm hiring a forensic team. Every family document, every asset. We will know what's real and what's not. Lucien stormed off, shouting about betrayal. His voice cracked. Empty threats. Morgan followed, silent, head down. No one tried to stop them. The garden was quieter, split. Some whispered with concern. Others looked ashamed. No one laughed. I walked to Evelyn, knelt beside her. We did what was right, no matter what comes next. She hugged me hard, her little voice at my ear. I'm proud of you. The house feels different in the mornings now. Not just quieter, but still. Like it's finally taken a breath after years of holding one in. The phone barely rings. No more surprise visitors dropping in with sugar-coated gossip. It's just me, Evelyn, and a soft kind of peace. I wake early, earlier than usual. The kettle hisses while the sky is still gray. I don't bother turning on the lights. I let the sun stretch in on its own time. Evelyn's still asleep. She had a long week of questions, emotions, and whispered explanations from teachers who meant well but didn't really understand. I let her rest. The photo on the fridge catches my eye. An old one. Mom and Dad, me as a child on Dad's shoulders, Lucien beside us. We were smiling, but it looks like someone else's memory now. I used to stare at that picture and ache. Now, I just study it. I trace the outlines of what was lost, not with longing, but clarity. I sip my tea and pick up my journal. It's become a habit again. I flip to a blank page and write slowly. You don't get to rewrite history, but you can reclaim your future. I underline it twice. Later that afternoon, I sit across from the family lawyer at his office. His tone is neutral, but his eyes hold something close to respect. The estate investigation is underway. Documents under review, signatures under scrutiny. He asks if I want to pursue damages now that Delia has offered a settlement. No, I tell him. This was never about the money. His eyebrows rise a bit, but he nods. On my way home, I stop by Tanya's. She's tired but glowing, a newborn in her arms, pink and blinking. We don't say much. We just sit. Two women who once shared whispers in dark corners now watching a new life yawn in a blanket. Morgan left town days ago. No one's heard a word. Lucien's audit is official now. His account's frozen. Delia hasn't spoken to him since the brunch. I write a letter to my parents. Not to ask for anything, just to say goodbye, in my own way. I'm choosing peace, I write, not permission. I don't expect a reply. That's not the point. That night, Evelyn climbs into my bed. Is it over? She asks, voice small. I pull her close. What matters is what begins next. The next morning, we volunteer at a shelter nearby. I help sort clothes while Evelyn helps a little girl tie her shoe. I share my story that afternoon in a support group. My hands shake, but I speak, not as a victim, not even as a survivor, just someone who knows. Afterward, a woman approaches me. She touches my arm and says, "You're the kind of strong they don't write songs about." But they should. I cry, quietly, not from grief, but because someone saw me. Back home, we paint the living room. Soft sage. Evelyn picks it. We make banana bread using Grandma's recipe. I taste it for the first time without bitterness. One evening, I sit in the garden while Evelyn draws next to me. The breeze is warm. I write a letter on lined paper. To myself, 10 years ago. "You're not hard to love," I write. "They just never tried." I fold it, walk to the fire pit, watch it burn. I don't flinch. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing something else. I whisper to the smoke, "You can rest now. I've got this." Evelyn hands me her drawing. It's us, our house, a tree, two stick figures smiling. I walk inside and pin it to the fridge, right over the old photo, and it feels exactly right.